I-27F, work as an accountant at my family's real estate business. It's a perfect family company. My older sister Kate, 35F, is the sales director, and my other sister Amanda, 32F, works as our interior designer. For the past 10 years, I've been the reliable one, the good daughter who always does what's expected of her. Yesterday, while organizing old files in our company archive, I found something that shook my world. It was a leather-bound photo album, carefully preserved and recently handled, unlike the dusty boxes surrounding it. As soon as I opened it, I knew something was wrong. Kate's graduation, Amanda's first art exhibition, both their weddings, promotions, every major family milestone meticulously documented and preserved. But there wasn't a single photo of me. Found something interesting? My grandmother Rose's voice startled me. She stood at the archive doorway, her eyes sharp despite her age. When I tried to put the album back, she stopped me. Patricia's shrine to success, she said, her voice carrying that hint of vinegar it always did when discussing my mother's choices. Go ahead, look through it. Sometimes the truth hurts less than pretending. Page after page of my sister's triumphs. Kate's first major sale, Amanda's design award, their perfect lives meticulously catalogued and preserved. Notice anything missing? Rose asked. The word came out smaller than I intended, me. 17 years of you, she confirmed. Your accounting degree, your Employee of the Year awards, that beautiful charity gala you organized last spring that brought in record donations. None of it made the cut. My fingers traced the edge of a photo, Kate accepting her latest sales achievement award. They're all coming over tomorrow, I said quietly. Family dinner to celebrate Amanda's pregnancy. And let me guess, Rose's laugh was sharp, they'll need you to handle all the preparations while they drink wine and reminisce? Don't they always? I managed a weak smile. You know there's a difference between being helpful and being taken for granted, Rose said. Your sisters learned early how to be the stars. Maybe it's time you learned how to say no. Mom would lose it. Maybe she needs to. I closed the album, but the images stayed burned in my mind, years of being the reliable one, the good one, the invisible one, all captured in what wasn't there. I got accepted to that art school in New York, I said quietly. Full scholarship. Haven't told anyone yet. Rose's eyes lit up. Mom already talked to Kate about getting me a permanent position in the accounting department. And what do you want? The question hung in the air like dust motes catching light, demanding attention. Below, I could hear Mom in her office, probably planning tomorrow's dinner, probably already counting on me to handle everything from setup to cleanup. The word stuck, then broke free, I want my own damn page in the album. Rose smiled, slow and knowing. Then I suggest you start taking some pictures worth saving. She reached into her purse and pulled out a bank book. I've been saving for your education since the day you were born. Your sisters had their college funds from your parents, but I saw how things were going. My hands shook as I opened it. The balance made my eyes water. This is why Kate's been pressuring me about staying with the company lately. She thinks I'll need their money. And now she knows you don't. A knock at the archive door made us both jump. Through the glass, I saw Kate's perfectly styled hair and designer blazer. Speaking of the devil, Rose muttered. Want me to send her away? No, I straightened my spine. I need to handle this. Kate burst in before Rose could reach the door. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. The quarterly reports need to be finalized, she announced, barely acknowledging Rose's presence. Mom wants them on her desk by tomorrow morning. Actually, I was just heading out, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. Kate froze mid-stride. What? The reports are your responsibility. And I finished them 3 days ago. They're already on the shared drive. If you'd checked your emails. I let the words hang there, watching her face flush slightly. I need to prepare my art portfolio. College applications are due soon. The silence that followed was deafening. Art, college? Kate's voice had gone up an octave. Since when are you applying to art school? Since I decided I wanted to. The words came out steadier than I felt. But Mom said you're taking over the accounting department. We already discussed. You discussed, I cut her off. I wasn't there, remember? In her office, I could hear Mom on the phone, probably closing another deal. Dad was probably in his workshop, avoiding everything as usual. Don't be difficult, Rachel. Kate's voice took on that patronizing tone she used with her clients. This is a great opportunity. Do you know how many people would kill for a position here? Then give it to one of them. Her perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together. What's gotten into you? Nothing, I headed for the door. I just have work to do. Rachel's being impossible. Kate called out. And there it was, the default response when I didn't play my assigned role. Call Mom, let her handle the defective youngest child. Mom appeared in the doorway, phone still in hand. Rachel, your sister needs those reports. The reports are done, Rose interjected, still standing by the shelves. This is about something else entirely. Show me the pictures, I said suddenly, turning to face them both. What pictures? Mom's voice was sharp. The ones you took at my events. The ones you saved in that fancy album upstairs. Mom's face flushed. Kate looked confused. In the sudden silence, I could hear Rose's slow footsteps approaching. I don't know what you're talking about, Mom said, but her voice wavered. The one in the archive. The one with all the family memories. I met her eyes. Except I'm not in it. Not once. Kate scoffed. Don't be dramatic. Of course you're in it. When was my last art exhibition, Kate? What award did I win last month? Name one thing about my life that doesn't involve spreadsheets or picking up your slack. She opened her mouth, closed it. Rose spoke from the doorway. I think it's time we all sat down for a real conversation. There's nothing to discuss, Mom snapped. Rachel's just being sensitive, and we have the Anderson contract to finalize. The contract can wait, Rose said flatly. This matters more. Amanda wandered in, one hand on her pregnant belly. What's going on? Your sister's having a tantrum, Kate supplied. No, I said. I'm having a revelation. There's a difference. I pulled out my phone, opened my email, and pulled up the acceptance letter I'd received yesterday. Full scholarship to the New York Academy of Arts, I read aloud. Starting this fall. The silence that followed was deafening. New York? Mom whispered. But that's far away. Independent? Not part of your plan? I pocketed my phone. Yeah, it is. You can't possibly be serious, Kate said. You're 27. You have responsibilities here. What I have, I cut in, is a chance to be seen. Actually seen, not just used as convenient office help or background decoration in your perfect lives. Mom started to speak, but Rose held up a hand. Let her finish. I'm finishing my portfolio tonight, I said. And tomorrow, I'm taking pictures of my own achievements. Starting my own album. You're all welcome to be in it, but only if you're actually there. I headed for the door, leaving them in stunned silence. Through the glass, I saw Amanda sink into a chair, her face pale. For once, my perfect sister Kate had no response. In my office, I opened my laptop and started working on my portfolio. Through the walls, I could hear raised voices, Mom and Kate arguing, Amanda trying to mediate, Rose's sharp replies cutting through it all. For the first time in years, I wasn't rushing to make peace. I was up here making art, making choices, making waves. And it felt absolutely right. Rose's house always smelled like lavender and old books. I hadn't planned on visiting her today, but after 3 days of Mom's silent treatment and Kate's passive-aggressive texts, I needed somewhere safe to breathe. Your mother called, Rose said, setting down a cup of tea in front of me. Twice. Let me guess, I'm being unreasonable. Actually, she wanted to know if I'd talk some sense into you about the money. I nearly dropped my cup. What money? Rose settled into her armchair, a slight smile playing at her lips. The college fund I told you about. The one your mother just found out exists. This is why Kate's been blowing up my phone? She thinks she can pressure you into giving up New York because you'll need their money. And now she knows you don't. A knock at the door made us both jump. Through the window, I saw Kate's Mercedes in the driveway. Speak of the devil, Rose muttered. Want me to send her away? No, I straightened my spine. I need to handle this. Kate burst in before Rose could reach the door. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide her exhaustion. This is completely inappropriate, she announced. Using Rose like this, using me. Rose's voice could have frozen hell. Child, sit down before you embarrass yourself further. Kate sat, but her legs bounced with nervous energy. Mom's devastated. Dad hasn't come out of his workshop in days, and Amanda's doctor says her blood pressure is too high, which you'd know if you answered her calls. Don't you dare guilt trip me about Amanda's pregnancy, I said. Not when you're the one who told her I'd be available to help after the baby comes. Because that's what family does. No, that's what I do. You and Amanda get to have lives, careers, families. I get to be the support system. We supported you plenty. Name one time. The silence stretched. Rose quietly sipped her tea. This isn't about support, Kate finally said. This is about you being selfish, running off to New York, abandoning your family. Like you abandoned your dreams? The words shot out before I could stop them. Kate went pale. What? You wanted to be a writer, remember? You used to tell me stories when I was little. But Mom and Dad thought sales was more practical, so you gave up. Now you're successful and miserable, and you can't stand that I'm choosing differently. You don't know anything about my life. I know you cry in your car sometimes after family dinners. I know you hate your job but keep pushing for promotions. I know you want me to follow your path because it would validate your choices. Tears spilled down Kate's cheeks, ruining her mascara. That's not, I'm trying to protect you. From what? Being happy? Being myself? From failing. She stood up, hands clenched. Do you know how hard it is out there? How many people never make it in art? At least with me, you'd have security. A future. Like yours? I met her gaze. Living someone else's version of success? The fight seemed to drain out of her. She sank back down, looking smaller somehow, more like the sister who used to read me bedtime stories. I just wanted. She whispered, then stopped. To help? Rose supplied. Or to control. Kate wiped her eyes, leaving black smudges on her fingers. Mom's going to cut you off, she said quietly. She told me to tell you. No car, no phone, no support if you go to New York. I looked at Rose, who nodded slightly. I don't need it. I have my scholarship, I have Rose's support, and most importantly, I have myself. I stood up. You used to tell me stories about brave girls who fought dragons, remember? Maybe it's time I fought mine. Kate stared at me for a long moment, then gathered her purse with trembling hands. At the door, she paused. The dragons, she said softly, they always won in my stories. No, I corrected her. You just stopped writing before the ending. After she left, Rose and I sat in silence, watching steam rise from our cups. Outside, Kate's car stayed parked for several minutes before finally pulling away. Well, Rose said, I believe that's what they call a breakthrough. I wasn't sure if she meant for Kate or for me. Maybe both. Tomorrow is the family dinner. Amanda's pregnancy celebration. My last chance to tell them all what I've decided. But for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of their reactions. Because I finally understand, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is disappoint the people who thought they owned your dreams. I'll update you all tomorrow after the dinner. Wish me luck. Update 1, it's been 24 hours since the family dinner, and everything has changed. I need to write this down while my hands are still steady enough to type. The evening started exactly as I predicted. Amanda arrived first, already looking exhausted. Kate showed up next in her designer suit, straight from a client meeting. Mom was in the kitchen, orchestrating everything like a general preparing for battle, while Dad disappeared into his workshop the moment tensions started rising. Before we celebrate, Mom announced as we gathered around the dining room table, we need to address Rachel's situation. The way she said his situation and made it sound like a terminal illness. I've already made my decision, I said, gripping my water glass. You've made a childish choice, Mom corrected. But I've found a solution. She pulled out a folder, because of course she had a folder, and laid out her plan. I would stay at the company, take over the accounting department, and could pursue my little hobby on weekends. Art isn't my hobby, I said quietly. It's who I am. Kate shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Amanda stared at her plate. Who you are, Mom's voice could have cut steel, is a Parker. And Parkers don't abandon their family for foolish dreams. Like Kate's writing? Or Amanda's paintings? The silence that followed was deafening. Amanda's hand flew to her belly, her face paling. Kate's knuckles went white around her fork. That's different, Mom started, but I was done being interrupted. How? Because you successfully crushed their dreams? Because they gave in? I pulled out my acceptance letter. I got into one of the best art schools in the country. Full scholarship. They said my work shows remarkable emotional depth and technical promise. And who will handle the quarterly reports? Mom demanded. Who will manage payroll? Who will hire an accountant? I cut her off. A real one, who actually wanted the job instead of being guilt into it. Rachel, my father's quiet voice surprised everyone. He'd emerged from his workshop, sawdust still clinging to his shirt. Your mother is trying to protect you. No, Rose's voice rang out. She'd been so quiet, I'd almost forgotten she was there. She's trying to control her. Like she controlled you, Robert. Like she controlled all of them. Mom stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. How dare you? Everything I've done has been for this family. Has it? I asked. Or has it been for your vision of this family? Your perfect little dynasty where everyone plays their assigned roles and no one dares to want more? I want more, Kate whispered. Everyone turned to stare at her. She cleared her throat and said louder, I started writing again. At night, after work. I haven't felt this alive in years. Mom's face went from red to white. Catherine and Parker I'm pregnant, Amanda blurted out. I mean, you know that, but I've been painting the nursery. Not just decorating. Actually painting. Stories on the walls. Dragons and castles and brave knights. Because I want my child to know it's okay to dream. Dad stepped forward, placed a hand on Mom's shoulder. She shrugged it off. This ends now, she declared. Rachel, you have a choice. Stay with the company, stay with your family, or what? I stood up slowly. Or you'll erase me from another album. Pretend I never existed? Too late, Mom. You've been doing that for years. I walked to the door, my legs surprisingly steady. Behind me, chaos erupted. Mom was shouting, Amanda was crying, Kate was trying to mediate. But for the first time, I didn't turn back to fix everything. In the driveway, Rose caught up with me. You know this isn't over, she said. She'll try everything to make you stay. I know. I looked up at my childhood home, at the perfectly manicured lawn and the designer curtains. But I'm done being the family ghost. Dad found me packing later that night. He stood in my doorway, looking lost without his tools. Your mother means well, he started. So did you, I replied, folding another shirt. When you gave up architecture to join the family business. How's that working out for you, Dad? Enjoying your workshop exile? He flinched. Then, to my surprise, he pulled out a small wooden box. Inside were newspaper clippings, old sketches, report cards, my achievements, carefully preserved. I kept them, he said quietly. Everything you thought no one noticed. Why didn't you ever say anything? Because I'm a coward, he said simply. Don't be like me, Rachel. Don't let fear of disappointment build your cage. As of this morning, I'm staying at Rose's house. Mom's blocked my number, Kate's sending increasingly desperate texts, and Amanda's doctor has ordered her on bed rest due to stress. Dad's gone completely silent, even his workshop lights are dark. But for the first time in my life, I can breathe. My art supplies are spread across Rose's guest room, my portfolio is growing, and my future feels like a blank canvas instead of a predetermined path. Sometimes breaking free means breaking things. I just hope someday they'll understand why I had to do it. I'll update again when there's more to tell. Right now, I need to paint. Update 2, 1 week since I moved to Rose's house. The situation has escalated faster than I expected, and not in ways I could have predicted. Late last night, Kate called me in tears. Amanda's been hospitalized. Early contractions, dangerously high blood pressure. The doctor mentioned stress as a likely trigger, and Mom's been telling everyone it's my fault. Because of course she has. I went to the hospital, despite Mom's explicit, stay away message. Amanda was pale against the white sheets, monitors beeping steadily around her. When she saw me, she started crying. I'm sorry, she whispered. This isn't your fault. I never meant for any of this to happen, I said, taking her hand. I know. She managed a weak smile. Remember when we were kids and I used to let you use my art supplies? You were always better than me, even then. That's not true. It is, she insisted. You're doing what I couldn't, breaking free. I just wish. She glanced down at her belly. I wish I'd been braver before all this. Kate arrived while we were talking. She looked terrible, designer clothes wrinkled, makeup smudged. Mom's on her way, she warned. But instead of asking me to leave, she pulled up a chair. I found my old notebooks, she said quietly. The ones with my stories. I've been reading them at night, wondering who I'd be if I'd fought harder. She looked at Amanda, then me. We've all been living Mom's version of our lives for so long, we forgot we had our own. The monitors beeped in the silence that followed. Then Amanda spoke, paint something for the baby? For the nursery? Something about freedom and courage and... She trailed off, fighting tears. Of course, I promised. That's when Mom arrived. Her face went from concern to furious in an instant. Get out, she hissed at me. Haven't you done enough damage? Patricia. Dad's voice startled us all. He'd appeared behind Mom, still wearing his workshop clothes. That's enough. Robert, don't you dare dash, our daughter is in the hospital, he cut her off. All our daughters are here. For once in your life, stop trying to control everything and just be present. Mom's face crumpled for just a moment before her walls slammed back up. Fine. Rachel can stay. But this doesn't change anything. The next few hours were tense but quiet. The doctors managed to stop the contractions. Amanda fell asleep holding my hand on one side and Kate's on the other. Dad sat in the corner, methodically turning a small piece of wood over in his hands. Mom stood by the window, arms crossed, watching us all like we were strangers. Maybe we were. Maybe we always had been. Later, in the hospital parking lot, Kate caught up with me. I submitted a story, she blurted out. To a literary magazine. Under a pen name. I haven't told anyone else. Kate, that's terrifying, she finished. Exhilarating. I forgot what it felt like to want something for myself. She twisted her wedding ring nervously. If they accept it, will you come to New York anyway? When, I corrected. When they accept it. She smiled, really smiled, for the first time in weeks. Back at Rose's, I found Dad waiting on the porch. He handed me a small wooden box, another one of his creations. Inside was a check. "I've been saving," he said quietly. "Not much, just what I could hide from your mother. For art supplies, maybe. Or a security deposit in New York." "Dad." "I failed you girls," he interrupted. "I let your mother build our cages because it was easier than fighting. Don't make my mistakes, Rachel. Break the pattern." This morning, Amanda was released from the hospital, strict bed rest orders. Mom's hired a nurse, taken control again. But something's shifted. Kate's writing in secret. Dad's finally speaking up. "Amanda asked me to bring my art supplies to her house. She wants to watch me work on the nursery mural while she rests. The only constant is Mom's silence. She's playing the martyr, telling relatives how her family's falling apart. But maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe we need to fall apart to rebuild something real. My portfolio's almost ready. New York feels more real every day. It terrifies me and thrills me in equal measure. Some of you have asked if I feel guilty. The truth is, I do. Not for choosing my dreams, but for being the earthquake that's shaking everyone else's foundations. I never meant to start a revolution. I just wanted to stop being invisible. But now that it's started, I can't stop watching my sisters awaken. Can't stop hoping this breakdown leads to a breakthrough. Can't stop dreaming that maybe, just maybe, we'll all find our way to something true. I'll update again when I know more about Amanda and the baby. And maybe by then, Kate will have news about her story. For now, I have a nursery to paint. Dragons and castles, yes, but also birds. Birds with broken cages behind them and wide skies ahead. Update 3, my first gallery showing at the Academy brought an unexpected crowd. Not my family, Mom's still not speaking to me, and that's fine. But among the viewers studying my work, I spotted Dad, standing alone before my centerpiece painting. The canvas shows 3 birds in a gilded cage. 2 remain perched inside while 1 flies free through the open door. I titled it, Family Portrait. Below it, in smaller letters, for Kate, who taught me about dragons before she forgot how to write them. "You captured your mother's eyes," Dad said as I approached, "in the bird that's staying behind." I hadn't thought about it when painting, but he was right. The remaining bird had that same steel-hard gaze. "I didn't think you'd come. Wouldn't miss it." He gestured to the painting. "Though I suspect I'm the perch they're sitting on." The truth of it made us both wince. "How is everyone?" I asked, more out of courtesy than desire to know. "Your mother's in therapy." Finally. He ran a hand through his graying hair. "Kate's writing again, short stories after work." "And Amanda." He smiled slightly. "She turned her nursery mural into a full exhibition." Small gallery, but it's a start. Something tight in my chest loosened, just a fraction. "And you?" "Sold the cabinet business." His eyes remained on the painting. "Started teaching woodworking at the community center instead. Turns out I like helping others build things more than hiding behind them." A commotion near the entrance drew our attention. Rose had arrived, commanding the room like she owned it. Several of my classmates immediately gravitated toward her, drawn by her sharp wit and sharper insights. "She's proud of you," Dad said. "We all are. Even if some of us are still learning how to show it." "Dad." "No, let me finish," he turned to face me fully. "You were right about everything. The cage, the compliance, the cowardice. But you were wrong about one thing." "What's that?" He pointed to the flying bird in my painting. "Freedom isn't just about escape. Sometimes it's about showing others the door is open." Before I could respond, my faculty advisor called me over to meet a prominent gallery owner. When I looked back, Dad had moved to another piece, a small sketch of his workshop, the light falling just so on his tools. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda, "Baby's here. Named her Eden, for freedom and new beginnings. Thought you'd appreciate the symbolism." Another rebellious artist in the family refused to follow the birth plan, did it her own way. Another message followed, "She has your eyes. And your stubbornness." I smiled, typing back, good for her. Rose finally made her way to me, her eyes bright with pride. Quite a statement piece, she said, nodding at the family portrait. Though you might need to update it. Why is that? Your sister's bird seems to be testing its wings. She handed me a literary magazine, open to a short story byline, K. Parker. Kate published? Under a pen name, Rose squeezed my arm. Baby steps. The gallery owner was waiting, but I took a moment to scan the room, Dad studying my art with new understanding, Rose holding court among my peers, the empty spaces where Mom and my sisters weren't. My phone buzzed again. Kate, this time, read your interview in the student paper. You're right about everything. Not asking for forgiveness, just wanted you to know. I slipped the phone away without responding. Some conversations needed time, like paint needed to dry. The gallery owner approached, praising my technique, my vision, my courage in tackling difficult themes. But I was watching Dad, who had pulled out his wallet and was adding something to the visitor's book. Later, after the crowds left, I checked the book. There, carefully placed between its pages, was a photograph, me at 5, covered in paint, proudly holding up my first real artwork. On the back, in Dad's careful handwriting, the day you started flying. I added it to the exhibition, right next to the family portrait. A beginning next to an ending, or maybe they were both beginnings, depending on how you looked at it. Outside, New York's lights painted the sky in possibilities. Somewhere back home, Amanda was holding her rebellious daughter, Kate was writing in secret, Mom was still building walls, and Dad was finally learning to tear them down. And me? I was exactly where I needed to be. Free. Creating. Showing others the way out of their own cages. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's living so right that their opinion stops matching altogether. I won't be posting any more updates. This chapter of my story, the one about escaping, is over. The next one, about living, is just beginning. And this time, I'm writing it myself.